happen by accident. Most businesses don't fail overnight. They erode slowly and quietly, almost invisibly, and the root cause of that erosion is often the same. Leaders start accepting that things are good enough. Most of us have been in that position where we've walked down a high street and we've suddenly gone, that business that was there last week is suddenly gone. And usually this isn't by some massive event that's really taken that business down. It's a slow erosion of standards. Because in a lot of businesses, these standards slip and habits get a little bit looser and people start telling themselves that good enough is good enough. And by the time you realize it's happening, it's too late. The reputation of the company is going down and staff can no longer be bothered. And then it's a culture problem that you can really struggle to bring back. The challenge is that when people say it's good enough, it just feels harmless, or it's a single thing, or it's there to save a bit of time, or because they don't want the conflict. But those small things compound over time, and slowly that bar of what's acceptable gets lower and lower. And eventually it just becomes part of the culture, and then it affects the customer experience, and then suddenly it's a completely different business than it was 6 months ago. The teams will always adjust quickly to the lower expectations. And reversing those lower expectations takes a lot of time. I have this thing called the 1% theory, and it really applies to what we're discussing here, because the 1% increases in a business will come fairly naturally, especially if business is trying to grow. But the 1% slip can often go unnoticed, and they quickly add up a lot faster than the 1% increases. Which means that when you're applying a 1% drop to a 1% increase, they don't balance out, and the business will start to drop a lot quicker than it will increase. And people won't notice it because the good enough is fine for today, but it will really affect what's happening in the future. And no one will be able to notice it at first. The customers will just come in and go, something's changed, something just feels off. And they'll put it down to the weather or a bad coffee machine or whatever it might be. But then they start creating this story, and instead of coming to you, your coffee shop, your establishment, your business, they decide to go somewhere else. And they won't necessarily know why. It will be a subconscious thing. And it all comes back to this mediocrity that we've started to accept that those 1% are okay. It's okay not to tuck the chairs in at the end of the day. You see this in cafes all the time. They close at 6, but at 5:30, someone comes out with a mop and bucket. And suddenly that trade between 5:30 and 6, catching those commuters on the way home, goes away. Because people go, they're closing. Because the team are getting lazy and they don't want to finish after 6 o'clock. And you see it in sales teams all the time. That top performer gets really comfortable and suddenly they go, I'll make that follow-up call tomorrow. Or they don't do everything as they should because they got busy. And these are things that they would normally enforce, and something that took them to the top of that sales chart. But very quickly, these become the new normal. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. He says that once you miss 2 days of a habit, you create a new habit of not doing that thing. And this becomes the new normal across the board. And that means that these standards are always going to collapse. Think about it like this. You've been eating really healthy, you've been at the gym, and you miss a couple of days because of a family holiday or the gym was closed and you just missed it. It's always harder on that 3rd, 4th, 5th day to go back than it would have been to go, gym's closed, I'm going to go for a run, or I'm going to do some press ups, or whatever it might be. And we always say to ourselves, oh, it's fine, it's just one more day, it doesn't really matter. But that good enough is really hard to see in the real time. And this is what the businesses face. And the revenue might stay steady, so it's okay. And it might even go up if you're going through a busy period. And so it's okay. But that's the trap. Now, we have a saying in our businesses, which is, when everything is going good, market well. So what we mean by that is when everything's going good, we can fall off our prospecting train. We can drop the marketing slightly, but that's the real time to double down, because that good isn't going to last forever. And when that comes out, we want to make sure that we're really in the right place to thrive. And what we found previously when we've not done this is those really good employees will leave us. They'll end up leaving us because we're just not holding the standards, and they can sense it. And they don't know why necessarily, but they just go, it's not the company it used to be. And so they go and find another company that do hold those standards. And the true cost is that it will start to damage everything. It will start to damage the reputation of the customers, and it damages your leads, and it just will kill all your momentum, which is one of the most valuable assets in businesses that you can't really measure. So you have to raise the bar again, publicly and very clearly with your team. You have to be willing to lose those bad people who say good enough is good enough. And you have to model the standards yourself, because there can never be one standard for the team and one standard for you. You really need to make sure you have your systems in place. They're essential for this. You need those processes to make the excellence the default and not a choice. The standards and those systems need to be documented, and they need to be reinforced so they're not up for interpretation. And you have to inspect what you expect. You can't just trust your team are going to do it. You have to make sure you're there. You have to measure them, because that measurement creates accountability. And you also, most important, you have to celebrate the right things. So you have to show what great looks like, and you have to celebrate that and reward your team accordingly. People will repeat what gets rewarded, and if you only reward the results and not the standards, then don't be surprised when people cut the corners to get the same results. Excellence comes down to a daily practice. You never arrive at great. You have to keep working at it. And the moment you step away from reinforcing it, good enough takes over. Have a look at your business. We do this all the time, and we ask ourselves, what's the thing we're missing? What are we not reinforcing? And that might be repainting the A-frame that goes out front. It might be checking in with some of our clients. It might just be talking to those lower level employees saying, what do you need right now to level everything up? And this is especially important if you're looking to sell your business in the future, because those investors will know what good enough looks like, and they can see through all the BS that you put out there. They're looking for the strong, consistent standards that will drive the predictable results. The excellence that you're building with those 1% are the moat that can't be copied. Your competitors might look in and go, they're doing great and we know why. And they can see the big things. They can't see the minor things. And that's where that 1% becomes really, really important. So where in your business have you let good enough creep in? And if nothing changes and you had to step away from the business, what would the business look like in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? And what would you have to do today to raise the standards in that 6, 12, and 18 months? Because remember, the businesses won't fail with a bang, they die in a whisper. And if you're letting good enough replace great, by the time you realize it, it may be too late. So what we're looking for is everyone to not settle, raise the bar, hold that line, and make excellence the new normal. Those are the business that don't just survive, but thrive.